Good evening, this is Brian Lawrence with IndianPeaksWeather.net, and it's Friday night, February 19th, and as you can see here, current conditions at our house in Nederland, Colorado, at about 8,200 feet in elevation. It is warm and windy. Temperatures right now around 41 degrees. Winds are from the west-northwest, sustained around 13 miles per hour, but we're getting some higher gusts now, up to 28 miles per hour. A little bit earlier we had some gusts up to about 40 miles per hour. Another windy night here in Nederland, and we had a pretty cool start to today. Looks like a low of about 25 degrees this morning. A little bit of snow last night. Only about a tenth or two of an inch of snow. It actually rained for a while last evening before turning to snow, and we had 5/100ths of an inch of rain and about 2/100ths of an inch of liquid, and that's from the 2/10ths of an inch of snow that were melted. So we had a little bit of snow. We still have some snow on the ground that's pretty much frozen solid now. The roads are pretty icy around here from having frozen this morning, and today's high only 46 degrees if you round up, and that's quite a bit cooler than it was yesterday. So today was a cooler day. We did have a cold front that went through last night and brought temperatures down to at least closer to seasonable levels, although that's still a little bit warmer than normal for late February. And I think that'll be changing over the next couple of days here in Nederland and in the Front Range communities of northeastern Colorado. We'll talk more about the forecast in just a minute. Right now, this is the bigger picture around our area, including Boulder, down to Denver, Westminster, Louisville, Superior. You can see it's a fairly mild night every place right now. Interesting thing going on here right around Boulder. Notice the temperatures are about 49, 50 degrees. About 50 degrees in Superior, but when you get out to the plains, they're back in the mid-30s. There's a really good reason for that, because right now the winds are generally blowing from the west-northwest, as you saw our weather station here, and as they come down off the mountains, they adiabatically warm, so sinking air warms and dries, and they also are strongest right along the foothills in this area here, and they mix the atmosphere. Places further out from the mountains aren't experiencing these winds as much, and so they're actually able to radiatively cool. The air is calmer. It gets a little bit colder, as you can see. In fact, significantly colder. Out towards Fort Lupton, 36 degrees. Boulder, 51 degrees. So, big difference in temperatures tonight, and it's pretty obvious where the mixing from the strong winds right now is occurring, and it's right at the base of the foothills in the high plains here. And you get out towards the airport and further out to the plains, it's significantly cooler. You're talking 10 to 15 degrees cooler, and that's not uncommon around here in the winter when you get these strong winds. Now, you go to the other side of the Continental Divide. Here's the Peak-to-Peak Highway. Here's the Continental Divide. You can see temperatures are a lot cooler when you get over towards Winter Park. 24 degrees right now. Big difference from us and also down in the plains around Boulder. And they're not. It's because the winds are from the west, and they're blowing up and over the mountains. They're not really getting a downslope component here. That's one. And two, they have a pretty good snowpack still in Winter Park, and the atmosphere is able to cool a lot quicker there because they're more sheltered. So you see temperatures plummet a little bit more there. 19 degrees right now up around Berthoud Pass. It's a little bit higher, about 11,000 feet. So that's to be expected. All right, well, so we've been in a pattern now for a couple of weeks where we've had quite a bit of warm air in the west, and some pretty cold air masses actually affecting the East Coast, although they really haven't had that much snow with those. And I think that pattern is finally going to break down. Again, January and February around here can be relatively dry months, and they can feature some warm spells for us, but this is a strong El Nino winter, soon to be spring, and El Nino springs bring heightened chances of decent storms for the Front Range of Colorado, what we call upslope storms. There's no promise in that, but we do expect springs around here, especially during El Nino years, to feature more in the way of moisture and snow in the ski country. Again, no guarantee, but there are some signs that this pattern that we've been in is going to start to break down, and that's really good news for skiers, snow lovers, and people who just don't want it to be summer yet, and people who have to fight fires. Moisture is a good thing. The longer we keep snow on the ground, the shorter the fire season potentially is. All right. So looking at the model guides, we're going to take a look at the GFS. This is from a little bit earlier in the day. GFS has been a little inconsistent from run to run in handling some storm systems, both in the east and out here in the west. But we're going to look at the 24-hour map here, and this is basically going to be Saturday morning. And again, this is what we call the 1,500 millibar thickness surface map. You can see the solid lines here are isobars. They're the same as the highs and the lows that you would see on TV, a TV weather person's weather map. And you can really think of these dashed lines, and we've talked about these before, but you can really think of them as representing where cold and warm air is. So the blue lines, the lower values, that's where cold air is. And you can see they go all the way down to like 486 up here. And there is a lot of cold air across northern Canada, north of Hudson Bay, and it's really trapped up there right now. And then, of course, on the flip side of the coin, we have warmer air to the south. Common sense, right? It's warmer as you go south, colder as you go north. But this chart gives us an idea where those air masses actually are. And you can see a few of those here. You can tell, I think this is pretty cool. You can tell there's a cold air mass up here. And you can tell that there are warmer temperatures down here. Let's do a W. How's that? And that's really the key in the weather, because it's where these cold air masses and warm air masses come together that you get precipitation and weather, or what we call sensible weather. You know, precipitation, snow, rain, sleet, so on and so forth. Thunder, lightning is not precipitation, but it's weather. All right. So what's this map showing us right now? It is showing us that cold air is trapped up in Canada, and there's really not much in the way of storminess across the U.S. right now. And just to give you perspective, we are here in Nederland, right there. Put a little dot there. And the pronounced warm air mass and ridge that's been over the western U.S. for the past week and a half has really broken down. And now we're seeing a more uniform temperature pattern across the country from east to west, or what we would call a zonal pattern. There's a little bit of precipitation in New England, but overall it's pretty mild. This is interesting here too, where we have a high off the coast here, eastern seaboard, and it's actually pumping in a little bit of moisture now into the southern plains, the Gulf Coast states, a little bit. And that's key. As we start getting into March and getting into the spring, we're going to see more and more that there is moisture becoming available from the Gulf of Mexico. And so you're thinking to yourself, okay, what does it matter? We don't live in the Gulf of Mexico. But what does matter, and what can happen is, well, we get a big low that cuts across the Four Corners area, a big upper level low, and it's a slow mover. And as you know, in the Northern Hemisphere, circulation around an upper level low is counterclockwise. Slow mover, and there's moisture available. That moisture can get pulled up into us. Now, in January and February, there tends to be a lot of cold air in the central part of the country. And as I like to say, the Gulf of Mexico is closed for business. The Gulf of Mexico is a significant source of moisture for us here in the Front Range on the east side of the Continental Divide. Significant source of moisture. All of our biggest snowstorms and rain events have had ample moisture that comes up from the Gulf of Mexico. So it's important to keep an eye on the Gulf, and it will become more and more open for business, as I like to say, in terms of moisture and heat energy as we start getting into March, April, and May. And yes, folks, as we know, it can snow here in Nederland in May. We had a couple feet a couple years ago on Mother's Day. We're not out of the woods yet. It's felt like spring, almost like summer the past few days. All bets are off after this week, because I think the pattern is going to start to change a little bit. But anyway, tomorrow morning, Saturday, no precipitation for us. Still a little bit breezy. There's a little bit of troughiness to the east side of the Continental Divide here, and some ridging to the west. So definitely some winds, and we have those winds blowing right now, but they should be diminishing as we go through the weekend. I'm going to step forward now a little bit. We're going to go ahead, say 24 hours. This will take us into Sunday morning. And again, this is a 12Z GFS, what we're focusing on. And you do see something interesting, that the cold air is beginning to push a little bit southward into us here. So I would expect that Sunday will be a cooler day than Saturday, although it's still dry. And you can see this frontal boundary here. Not a very strong frontal boundary by any stretch of the imagination, but it is right about in here. That's your cold front, and it's pushing south. Okay. Step ahead in time a little bit more. I have to bear with me here as I operate the buttons. This will take us into Monday morning. Slightly cooler. The 546 thickness line has pushed a little bit to the south, and when these cooler thickness values build into us from the north, that's called cold air advection. So cold air is filtering into Colorado. It's just at a slower pace. Now, by Monday morning, there's another interesting feature here, and it's a disturbance that's coming in from the Pacific Northwest. And the GFS has been kind of goofy with this, for lack of a more scientific term, goofy. But there it is. And I'm going to mark that right now as more of a trough coming in. There's the trough axis there. And this has the potential to produce snow for us on Tuesday. And we'll watch how it evolves. In fact, I'll step through the frames here a little bit more slowly as we do this. We'll go, this is midday Monday. Again, you can see that system, and it's not a well-organized system. There's no low. The 18Z GFS, however, does show a storm system forming down over southeastern Colorado later in the day on Monday. That's an anomaly. We'll keep an eye on subsequent runs of the GFS to see if that actually sticks. But this is a weak upper level disturbance, but it's going to be enough to actually pull colder air into our area, and it looks like there's enough moisture associated with it, and this would be moisture predominantly from the Pacific, the way it's looking right now. So that by the time we get into Monday night, you can see the thickness values are dropping, cold air is slowly filtering into our area, and there's some green. Look at that, right there. And there is the hint of the low. You know, the GFS has been so wonky I've been following it now for the past week. I've been predominantly watching this storm system on the East Coast, beginning to build. I used to live in DC, so we're always interested in what is potentially happening in DC in terms of snow, because it's so exciting when it snows there, and you get tons of time off from work. We don't get time off from work here when it snows 2 feet. Maybe when it snows 6 feet, but that doesn't happen that often. And then there's this low here. Now, as I said, the 18Z GFS went pretty much gonzo with this low Monday night and Tuesday. Not a big storm, but enough to produce some upslope flow back into the Front Range Divide. Again, remember, flow around low pressure is counterclockwise in the northern hemisphere. Okay. But on this run of the GFS, the slow is relatively weak. Not much in the way of upslope flow, but this upper level disturbance seems to have energy and does have some moisture with it. And you can see some of that moisture is actually getting down on the plains Monday night and into Nederland here as well. If we step forward in time a little bit more, there it is. And actually, just to our south and south of Denver, some decent precipitation. Not a big storm by any means. There's that low. And here's this trough that's digging into us now. The thicknesses are down to 534. And this has changed over the past few days, that we would have this colder air filtering into Colorado, especially northeastern Colorado, northern mountains, on Monday and Tuesday. It was looking like this next week would be fairly mild as well, but this has actually changed a little bit. And this is Tuesday morning. Now, important thing to know about weather. Our weather depends on what's happening on the East Coast. And And the weather that happens here can affect weather around the world. And let me explain that just a little bit. The GFS has been having some difficulty resolving the strength of this guy out here. Again, you're like, okay, well, big deal. Well, it is kind of a big deal because some runs have it tracking up, strengthening greatly, and tracking like straight north up into the Great Lakes almost. Excuse me. And other models, other runs of the same model have taken it out this way, weak. All solutions generally produce a lot of rain along the eastern seaboard, but the key is that if you get a stronger, slower solution, this one here, what that ends up doing is building up this ridge of warm air out here even more in the upper levels of the atmosphere. That slows the upper level wind pattern down and the progression of what we call the troughs and the ridges down. And that ends up slowing this storm system down here, allowing it to strengthen some more and give us more precipitation. So you see how that works. It's really amazing. It's called teleconnections. The fact that this ridge building more up here because of this low intensifying more here slows down the upper level wind pattern to an extent that a storm lingers around us longer, producing more precipitation. And the models have been struggling with this, especially the GFS now, for several days. And it really has to do with energy in the northern stream of the jet stream, which you can see the colder air mass up here is associated with that, and energy in the southern stream and how it phases together or doesn't phase together to produce a significant storm on the East Coast. Again, there's a lot of warm air, so when I say significant storm, it means a lot of rain for the most part for most people. But still, weather is weather. This is what makes weather forecasting so complicated. And I don't think this will be resolved until we get closer. As I said, the 18Z GFS had this storm going pretty much up into the Great Lakes. It had this storm really further up in southeastern Colorado, and some decent upslope wind flow across us here into the foothills, and decent snow. When I say decent snow, well, I'm not talking about 2 or 3 feet. I'm talking 6 to 12 inches. This run, however, snowfall here will probably be a lot less than that with the scenario that we're looking at. You can actually see some of that upslope here. It's kind of cool along the divide, and the GFS is picking it up pretty well. And it looks like it lasts through most of the day on Tuesday. Looking at this model, it's light, not a big storm, and it begins to diminish by Tuesday night. What is for sure, it's going to get actually cold again later Monday and through Tuesday and on Wednesday too as well. When I say cold, we may not actually get above freezing here on Tuesday. And that's amazing because it's been so darn warm here the past 2 weeks. And obviously in Nederland, Colorado, it gets cold. We're cold quite a bit throughout most of the winter. Our average temperature for the whole year is about 50 degrees. And we get quite chilly. We have many, many, many days where our low temperature gets below freezing, and many days where the high temperature doesn't get above freezing. So it's going to feel like winter again, and I guess that's really to summarize what I'm trying to say here. It's going to feel like winter again, at least for a few days next week. All right. Further down the road, what is going to happen? Well, that is the question. And will we return to the ridge in the west, trough in the east? I always like to take a peek way out in the future on the GFS. And again, this is not really fair because this goes out to March 6th. It's 384 hours. I don't know how many days that is. It's like 15 days or something like that into the future. The models can't forecast out that far. But if this were true, this would indicate a change in the upper level wind pattern that has been giving us all the warm temperatures the past week and a half or so. And by early March, what the GFS is hinting at, and what I'm hoping will actually happen, is that the trough and the ridge in the west is gone. It's been replaced by storminess. And now in the east, we have a ridge building off the coast here. And that would mean basically a reversal in the pattern and getting us into a stormier spring-like pattern here in eastern Colorado, where we can start to see some decent snows along the Continental Divide in the Front Range, even down to Denver. So this is what we're looking for. We're looking for a pattern shift. And that's what all the skiers are hoping for right now. And what does the upper level wind pattern look like related to this? Well, let's take a look. Go to a 500 millibar map, go over 384 hours, go back out there again, and see if it will pull it up for me. Let's see like it wants to. Oops, it just did it. I just better go. I'm a little far from my router here. There we go. So this is the wind pattern at about 20,000 feet. We call it the 500 millibar chart, but this map is significant because these winds tend to steer the storm systems across our country, and they also give you an idea where some of the cold air and warm air masses are as well. And again, really meteorology things are pretty simple. What you're looking at here is very much like a topo map, and everybody here in Colorado, they know how to read topo maps. We're hikers. And we know that on a topo map, elevation is shown by these contours. And these are actually contours of elevation on this map. And they are in decameters. So this contour here, this 510 contour, would be 5,100 meters high. So you're really looking at a topo map, but it's air, it's not ground. As we head south, you see that these contours, the values on it get higher. This one is 570 decameters, or 5,700 meters. Really basic stuff. When things warm up, they expand. When things cool off, they contract. Air is no exception. When air warms up, it expands. When air cools off, it contracts. So it makes sense then that the cooler air, the colder air masses, are going to be under these lower height values here, like the 492 decameter height up there. So we could actually go in and say, well, I think I know where that cold air mass is centered. And it's under this low, this polar low. I wouldn't go as far as to call it the polar vortex, but it could be a Hudson Bay low. And warmer temperatures could be found under these ridges here, like this one out in the Atlantic Ocean. Check that out. And there's a trough digging into the west coast here, and this is promising, because these are the types of systems when they track to our south, and if they slow down and form an upper level low, can bring us quite a bit of precipitation here in Colorado. And we love precipitation here in Colorado because we have so much sunshine most of the year. So we take precipitation where we can get it, rain or snow. You know, we live in a very fire danger prone place. Moisture is a really good thing when it comes to helping to lessen fire risk. All right, well, that gives you an idea, at least the next few days. So to summarize, this weekend is actually going to be pretty nice. It's going to be dry here in Nederland. High temperatures on Saturday, probably about the same as today, in mid-40s, maybe 46, 47 degrees. And then cooler temperatures, cooler air beginning to filter into our area as a series of weak cold fronts begin to push south, first on Sunday. High temperatures on Sunday, looking at around probably 42 degrees, and lows getting back down to the upper 20s, mid-upper 20s on Sunday night. And then Monday is when the real cold air arrives, and it's just really going to get us to maybe slightly below normal values for this time of year. I expect highs on Monday, upper 30s, so I'd say 35 to 40 degrees, with increasing cloudiness and a chance of some light snow showers by the end of the day. And the temperature's dropping back into the low 20s Monday night, and not getting above freezing on Tuesday. And Tuesday is a little bit of a question mark. We'll see what this storm system does. As I said, some of the more recent GFS model runs are showing a more significant snow event for us. But it's still not an optimal system. It's not drawing in moisture from the Gulf of Mexico, and the upslope flow for us is marginal. When I say upslope flow, then the winds coming in from the east are marginal. But still, it'll be nice to see some precipitation here. And then it looks like we will moderate again to slightly above warmer temperatures by Thursday and Friday of next week. So we have a period of winter-like weather coming into Nederland, Colorado, and I'll update you again either tomorrow or Sunday as to how that storm is evolving. And we'll see if it still looks like the pattern is going to switch back to a stormy or spring-like pattern here in the Rockies. And remember, on the Front Range, our snowiest, wettest time of the year is usually March, April, and May. We're almost there, folks. All right, well, thank you for joining me tonight, and we'll talk more soon.